Death and life are in the power of the tongue. This proverb encapsulates what we already know to be true. Words hold a lot of weight. What we say and how we say it, and what we do or avoid to do, can have an enormous effect on those around us and on our relationship. So does cultural differences and generational conflict. When one talks about deepening relationship, it shows up across different categories of relationship, be it parent and child, student and faculty, reporting manager and direct report, client and stakeholders, beneficiaries and donors, coach and client, family units, etc. Developing relationship does not just happen one fine day, but it is a process. It is a journey, a distinctive style in managing emotions and mindset. So, what are the basic principles that one needs to be aligned to? As one of the speakers in the conclave justly mentioned, the dignity of the individual is not the status, but the divinity within the individual. Many a time, we do not focus on relationships or do not value that as much early in our life. How can we create a new narrative, and how can coaching play a definitive role in the deepening of relationship? A very warm welcome to all of you who are present in our audience today. I am Devarajan Iyer, and I am your host for this session topic, aptly titled Deepening Relationship. More often than not, we operate out of conditioned patterns of behavior. Embracing new behaviors can deepen our relationship with others. It takes courage to open up, that you contribute to the quality of your relationship. This session probes how you show up as an individual and can influence the equation to achieve harmony. We are about to enjoy an engaging and a reflective conversation on the topic deepening relations. I'm as excited as you to listen to this much awaited panel discussion of highly accomplished leaders who bring in high levels of diversity. Let me introduce our panelists. I welcome on board our first panelist, Ashok Ramchandran, who is the Group Executive President, Group Human Resources at the Aditya Birla Group. In this role, he oversees HR for a portfolio consisting of a set of businesses across the conglomerate, as well as the Group Center of Expertise of Learning and Talent Development, Talent Staffing, and Employee Relationship. Across his career, Ashok has led HR teams to deliver both strong strategic impact as well as building depth of HR processes. Ashok is a strong believer in talent and potential and building of strong opportunities and careers for people. Besides the potential of people, not many know about Ashok's deep belief in nature and sustainability. Please welcome Ashok, and it is a pleasure to have you with us, Ashok.
Thank you, Dev. Thank you so much. Pleasure being here. Thank you.
Thanks. I welcome on board our next panelist, Dr. C. Jayakumar, more fondly known as CJK. CJK is the Executive Vice President and Head Corporate Human Resources of Larsen and Toubro Limited, an Indian multinational conglomerate. He is highly result-oriented HR professional with 34 years of experience in successfully planning, designing, implementing, and managing various strategic HR initiatives. An alumnus of the Madras School of Social Work, XLRE Jamshedpur, and London Business School, where he specialized in leadership and change and human resource management, qualified in law, and a doctorate in leadership from the University of Madras. He is also certified in OD from NTL USA. He presides in the board of AHRD, AIMA, CII on the National Committee on Leadership and HR, IIM Trichy, School of Inspired Leadership, etc. CJK was honored with the HR Lifetime Achievement Award in 2022 by FICCI and in 2021 by Economic Times and People Business. ETHR World recognized him among the top 50 HR thought leaders of 2022. Besides all of the above that CJK has crafted on his professional canvas, very few people know that he is also an artist who loves to do oil and acrylic painting. Please welcome Dr. CJK, and it is a pleasure to have you amidst us.
Thank you. It's nice being in this panel, Devaraj. Looking forward for an interesting session. Thank you.
Thanks so much, CJK. I now welcome on board our next panelist, Dr. G. Rajkumar, who is also the moderator for this panel discussion. For more than 3 decades, Raj has been playing a role in the personal and the professional lives of people through various roles such as a leadership facilitator, executive coach, and HR advisor. More than 30,000 people have got benefited through his work, and several organizations have consulted and leveraged their people capabilities with his advice. He is currently in the pursuit of digitizing all his life knowledge and experience through his website www.drrajcourses.com. Very few people know that Raj, though calling himself as an amateur, has now also started doing some serious singing, including some stage performance. Please welcome Dr. Raj, and it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dave. Thanks for having me here. It's an honor.
Thanks so much, Raj. At present, we recommend that you turn off all distractions to fully enjoy this great engaging conversation of leaders who are role models in their own right and who are championing coaching as a key development intervention to facilitate people to step out of the comfort zone, let go conditioned patterns of behavior, and create new possibilities for the future. And if I may add, in their own unique ways, optimizing their emotions, creating a new canvas of connections, engagement, harmony, and sustainability. We look forward to learning from all of you. Dr. Raj, I turn the session over to you now to handle in your own definitive style.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Dave. Thank you very much. And it's a pleasure to be on this panel with such esteemed panelists. And very nicely, you have given me the role of a moderator. By that very definition, I understand that I need to talk moderately. I should not be talking most of the talking. I think it should be coming more from the experts. We have wonderful panelists, and we have decades of experience and plenty of insights to listen to them. So I think the way we will structure this whole session is we'll keep it very conversational and more of experiential sharing. And also, in the beginning, I would invite our expert panelists to share their initial remarks about this whole topic of relationships. Maybe we'll go with Dr. CJK first, and then I'll go with Ashok next. Maybe 5 minutes each we will take, and then we will delve a little into deeper issues connected to the relationships. And definitely, for sure, we would like to allocate a good amount of time to respond to any questions from the audience. In fact, that will make the session much more interactive. And as much time we have, we will be able to respond to those questions. So that's a broad structure that we will follow. So now let me go to our experts to derive their initial remarks. A lot of people do say that relationships are important. Obviously, I think that is almost stating the obvious. But there are also people who say that relationships have been changing over the time. I think the very spirit of relationship seems to be taking a different shape. Of course, there are some people who take a very optimistic view. They get a feeling that with all the advancement of technologies, maybe people are coming closer. Of course, there is another school of thought which says, and I don't think that is the case. There is a not so optimistic view of relationship, and there are some people who purely look at relationship as more for business requirement. So there are different things. So to begin our conversation, let me invite Dr. CJK and then Ashok to share what do you see as this whole canvas of relationships at present. What to do with that, we will come into that next section. But right now, how do we paint this entire canvas of relationships? What kind of changes do you see? So let me go with Dr. CJK.
Thank you very much, Dr. Raj. Devraj has set a very high expectation. Good morning to all the participants and co-panelists, and extremely happy to be here. It's a very interesting topic, building deeper relationships. Aristotle, the Greek philosopher, has told long back, man is a by nature a social animal. Human beings cannot exist without relationships. But at the same time, the challenge is people are different. The biggest challenge is to get along with people, build relationship or a deeper relationships despite these differences. This is essentially the key thing for success in all facets of life. Our ability to build deeper relationships will determine how successful you are at your workplace, at your society, at your community, including in your family. There's a need for interdependence, the need for synergy, the need for mutual understanding, better and deeper relationships. Why do these differences happen? Why it is very difficult? Let us go in a broader way and then we'll get into deeper. Very clearly comes to my mind is that very famous that iceberg model. The tip you see is the behavior, but what influences the behavior is a whole lot of things, right? Which is below the water, which is starting from values, beliefs, motives, which leads to attitude, perception, judgments, and finally the behavior. This all influences the behavior. There are certain, in addition to that, there are certain underlying patterns, certain preferences, certain idiosyncrasies which each one has. How do we manage all these things? And each one is extremely different. How do I do this? I'm not getting into theory, but there is nothing more practical than a good theory, right? So if you even we look at the very, very famous transactional analysis talks about parent, adult, child, and if you look at standing in a parent position, a critical parent, then how does the relationship happen? There are other preferences like which we go through in the MBTI framework, which is extraversion, introversion, sensing. So people are totally different. How are we getting together? For me, the fundamental thing is the trust. Trust leads to better relationship. And it is interconnected. Better relationship leads to more trust, and trust leads to relationship. So it's a continuous process. It keeps moving up. So comparing to the earlier days, what happens is today it has become a busy world. Agility, multitasking. In addition to technology, as Raj touched upon, different social media, different type of engagements today, digitalization, further complicating this relationship. As he rightly said, some may feel that, yes, today I have a whole lot of friends, I have connected with all these people, but at what width and what depth you have got connected? If I take an example, how many of your friends' mobile numbers you can remember, whereas if you've taken a 5 years before or 10 years before, even today, if you want to remember some number, which are the numbers you used earlier, but not this, it becomes very little shallow. Again, I talked about earlier a whole lot of things which builds, makes people different. I talked about values, beliefs, attitude, perception, judgment, etc. Those things were getting hardened due to the earlier structure of a joint family, people living together. Today, the whole thing has changed. It is a nucleus family, people staying separately. And in fact, today, if I ask my son or a daughter to draw a family tree, I don't think till how many of the people he can draw. Every marriage, you will ask, who is this? I have to explain 10 times. But again, next time you see, if he asks, who am I, he will say. So that is the things are changing very, very fast. But luckily, this recent pandemic has brought a lot of changes. Though the relationship was shallow with many friends, it has taught us the purpose of life, the need for relationship, need for focusing on health, well-being, need for getting connected. So a lot of changes are happening. I think with this broad canvas, I leave it to Raj to take it further, and then we will again contribute as and when it comes. So sure. It is changing, but it is not going at a very different direction. But at least pandemic has given us a jolt and asked us to rethink about the whole thing. So I will draw it as in a different manner. Again, we are trying to come closer to that. hopefully things will be much, much better in the days to come.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think you have really painted a very wide canvas. I think we have plenty of points to delve into a little more deeply. But before I do that, now let me invite Ashok to share his initial perspectives on how do you see this whole landscape of relationships?
Yeah. Thank you, Raj. And thanks, Dave, ICF, for organizing this event itself and inviting me and us on the panel, and to NSIR who reached out as well to kind of help us bring this together. I think CJK has laid out the agenda rather beautifully. I don't want to repeat some of the things he said, but I think CJK, you captured the essence of the tone of relationships and what goes into relationships. I'd like to add on to that in a few points, Raj, which I see in perspective of what is happening as we see the context of this topic. One, I think people today seek clarity and fulfillment. If I step away as to why do I need a relationship? Why do I need deeper relationship? What does a relationship mean? In what context? To CJK's point, there is a need to affiliate. There is a need to connect with each other, which is a very social connect. And that's what makes us people. Yet people are looking for clarity. People are looking for fulfillment. And the context of deepening relationship goes from normal relationship, casual connects, to people are looking for something richer, deeper, more selective. People are looking for purpose and meaning. And I don't want to create every relationship into this huge topic called meaning and purpose. But when you look around you and each of us have a huge friend circle, you actually can filter that down to a very small group of trusted, valued relationships each of us would carry. You may have many acquaintances. And if you are in a professional career, you tend to believe you are in the midst of many people who are wanting to connect with you. If I stop that ego and simply connect at the base level, you can actually filter it down to a few relevant relationships which matter to you. So it seems that purpose, clarity, and fulfillment seems to be objectives around why people want deeper connects. The second bucket which strikes me is, I think deeper relationships start, and on the journey you got to experience trust and authenticity. The moment, and this is a smell test. As CJK said, this is a smell test. Either you'll find me authentic or not. I can't carry a badge of authenticity which you will believe in because I'm saying what I'm saying, because of the number of stripes on the shoulder, because of how senior or junior somebody is. It just doesn't matter. You will smell somebody out. You will trust somebody. Trust is a smell test. Authenticity is a smell test. And I think this is not just true for individual relationships. It's not just true about friends and people that we relate to. It's true for family. Even within a composite family called individual family members, you have different levels of trust. So when I now look at friendship at one level, family at another level, family seems to give us an architecture of trusting, but that doesn't necessarily mean you have trusted relationships or deep relationships within. So there is a social movement which is happening around personal coaching, around personal connect, around personal journey of coming to terms with my circumstances in my life, where I handle it better with a better round of relationships with people. So what is called personal adjustments, Raj, come into play when I have deeper adjustments. I'm a better fulfilled, better adjusted individual, more fulfilled individual when I have a deeper relationship. So therefore, that's the second bucket I want to mention in context. And the third and a very significant bucket, which all of us relate to maybe more, is the organization context. The role of relationships, trust, and authenticity in building culture. In the line manager's duty to have a qualitatively rich conversation. HR people talk about effective onboarding. Now, onboarding is a sign of relationship building. I tell my colleagues and my team, onboarding is not HR can launch many of these khatarnak processes. We are all process animals. We like processes to be launched. At the end of the day, the new employee comes in and says, am I experiencing trust? Am I experiencing relationship? Do I make friends in this place? And therefore, can my so-called onboarding process come alive by creation of richer relationships, which are work-wise effective, personally effective, leading to validation as to why I joined you. So it starts at onboarding, goes on to line manager. I trust my career with my company. I trust my career with my line manager. And when that trust starts shaking, I move. So relationship has a context to the company. Relationship has a context to the method of communication. It seems to have the who, the reputation of the who of the communication relationship. So it seems to have the what and the context and the who behind the relationship, which allows me to deepen or keep it superficial. And therefore, the last point I want to mention in this context is relationship is a choice. You may put me into a formal context, but relationship is a choice. A choice based on what I see as my ability to contribute and my ability to draw. And so that it doesn't become transactional and it goes deeper, how do I relate to that context of choice where people say, hey, this is worthwhile a conversation, and therefore the time you're spending with me is worthwhile. If at the end of this conversation, pre-lunch, 11:40 to 12:40, if at a remote level we have left our conversations with a sense of authenticity, we would have created the first block of relationships, though we are sitting virtual. I could sit face to face and not create a relationship. I could sit virtual like this and create a relationship. So I think these are 4 points, I believe, Raj, which are core, and adding on to the beautiful context that Jayakumar laid out for us. Over to you, sir.
Beautiful, beautiful. My God, I don't know, how do I really put all of these things together? And I think I need to go back to Dev and ask for extension of the time, because this kind of a canvas cannot be discussed within this 1 hour duration. But let me capture some of the interesting paradoxes that I listened from both of you. On one side, we are saying that human beings are really looking for that depth, that meaningful, very personalized kind of a conversations, very authentic kind of a conversations, and very trusting conversations. But on the other side, Dr. CJK also mentioned that the youngsters in the family, possibly they don't even relate with the previous generation. They can't even reproduce, what is a family tree, or they may not even connect with people. So I have this interesting paradox. Again, I want to come back to you. We need it, but we don't have it. Is that the scenario? We need it, but we don't have it, and we may have it in the short supply. Because I think, you also mentioned that social media has so many connections. Ashok, I think you mentioned beautifully, how many people do we have where we can genuinely go and reach out and have a very meaningful, deeper conversation where I discover some sense of meaning. Interesting part is we have a problem of plenty. We have plenty of connections, but we have some short supply. But we need it. We need it, but we don't get it. Is that the situation? And why did we get into this situation? I mean, any one of you maybe.
So, I think it's Raj. My take on this is this. I think we have a finite time and we have a certain objectives to achieve. I think people, all of us operate at 2-3 levels. One, at a very basic level of what do I need to do to succeed? I will do that much. I will connect with so many people and do what it takes to get my stuff done. So be it in the organization context, personal context, work context, there are people reaching out to you internally, externally, and you get stuff done for people. And that's one way to have a relationship. Second is when the opportunity to learn and grow personally happens. And I think there are 2 elements to this part. One, at a level 2 level, is what is called coaching. And maybe that's the ICF mandate of creating coaching as a culture. One shade below that formal coaching process is the relationship process. And I think that's the bedrock and the foundation of reaching out to say, how do I grow as a person? So quite often I've reached out to my mentors to say, these are my dilemmas, help me think this through, help me pattern what I should do, what are my responses. And quite often when I have authentic conversation, it just opens the minds into possibilities. So a deeper relationship to me is with a set of people where the purpose is personal growth, which cannot be done on doing likes on social media. It is more than acknowledgement. So if I look at acknowledgement at the first level of even connecting, beyond acknowledgement, the context to connect starts establishing in the mind. And if that leads me to personally grow through this relationship, I see value. And if it's mutual, we are worthy of connecting again to each other. And I think that element of layer of relationship is what holds organizations together. That's what we go back and say, the boss I worked with is a friend now, and he's such a fantastic leader. I have a chat with him and I get all clarity. These are symbols of people who had deeper relationships and value coming out of it. These are more than advisory. These are people who can relate to you. And therefore, the whole word called empathy, do you even understand me? And quite often, I don't need a solution. I don't need gyan. I don't need advice. I just need a listening post. And I go back from conversation saying, hey, such a rich conversation I had. Now, when you actually look at the conversation, it would have been somebody who made me feel understood. And I think we are going through a phase, Raj, where people seek to be understood. Employees want to be understood. People don't mind honest communication. That is the hallmark also people are looking for. So even if I'm a non-performer, average performer, I expect authentic, straight communication. In the absence of that, I'm left confused.
Beautiful.
So I will have even a deeper relationship in a negative situation if you're authentic with me. And it helps me grow. So I think these are choices to make. And before we even come to the formal, give me a coach, I want a coach, I'm a coach kind of a pattern. But there is a whole body of work below that, which I think is the fabric of organizations, fabric of all of us. That's my reading.
Lovely. So let me also gather the thoughts from CJK. What do you say that, on one side, we want a lot of depth, authenticity, trust, etc., but we still are in search of that? Is that the kind of scenario that you see?
See, first of all, what is there in for me in that relationship if it starts, everything fails? Okay. I would look at it at two levels, sir. First is at a very, do I operate at I am okay, you are okay level? Right? Coming in an adult to adult. That is the fundamental basis, whether it is an organization, whether it is at home, whether it is with anybody for that matter. Then comes a deeper level, what Ashok spoke about, how much of time you spend with them, how much of open you are, how much of self-disclosure you can make. It's all again what I spoke about, trust. How much I trust a person, based on that I can be very open, authentic, self-disclosure. I'm open to feedback. I accept that feedback. So it's all in the fulcrum of trust, it happens. I can give a typical example. Then that trust, it's a relationship, then again, I said, take an example of feedback as well as the relationship part of it, or the trust part of it. If I trust you, my trust level with you is very high, and you give me a positive feedback, I immediately accept it, right? My trust level with you is very bad, but you give a positive feedback. Even a positive feedback, I'll suspect, right? Because my relationship is not okay with you. For example, if my relationship is good and you're giving me a negative feedback, still I will introspect, because I trust you. You have given me negative feedback. I will think, why did Raj say this? So it is because I know you do it for my good. And if I don't trust you, give a negative feedback, I just ignore. I'm least bothered about it. I think let it go forward. So the relationship is, the trust is more important for relationship. How authentic you are, how open you are, how transparent you are, how much time you can spend with the person, how genuine you are, all those things depends. Immaterial, whether it is an organization, whether it is a subordinate, whether it is a family, a society, community, whatever it is. That's very important.
Okay.
Once you start, what is there for me, then it becomes. I want one of my good old friend, like you, once in a long discussion, 10, 15 years back, I still remember, he said, CJK, there's nothing like networking like, hi, how are you? Have come for a coffee. No, what you can do for him first, you look at it. You do what is possible. Look at his need, look at his priorities. Can you align with that and can you do something good for him? Naturally, network will happen, relationship will happen, people will introspect. If you go with intention, what I will get from him, or you just say, I will have network, I'll say hi, bye, they will also say hi, bye. And
Yeah.
thank you.
Wonderful.
Raj, if I can add on a point to
please.
what CJK mentioned, to share a journey that we had in the company, and more as to bring the context a little alive as to how live this topic is. All organizations have processes, appraisal, conversations, feedback. That kind of a tone happens in, let's say, all or most companies. Okay.
Yeah.
We realize that the quality of these conversations are sometimes very varied, and in most cases, low/poor. Why? Because I meet you daily. I anyway give you feedback, so you know what you're doing, and why should I repeatedly give it? What should I sit with you for?
Yeah.
And people then, we had many of these conversations early days, cut to 4 years back with our colleagues, and said, what is the richness of it? What? Say, boss, I give him feedback. There's a rating process done. Now give him his letter. So we said, let's go away from this whole journey. And we introduced a concept of CTC. And that caught everybody's attention because the normal language of CTC, everybody's excited about CTC, cost to company. So life is very happy. So we changed the tone to say conversations that count. So we launched a process of conversations that count. And we covered nearly 7,800 managers with this topic called conversations that count. Now it's amazing how it unleashed the power of the organization at a collective level. Now, so I'm giving you an example to say that there is an individual process which got triggered at a relationship level, and it became an organization movement where people said, actually, I enjoyed my conversation with my line manager. And the conversation became more than transactional. So obviously there is a performance transaction, what I did well, could do better, etc. But the conversation became richer, and my boss started attending to my personal growth, development. The conversation became wider, richer, perspective sharing, and TJK's point of trust started building up better. And therefore, the feedback context to my performance or lack of it became better accepted because I thought my boss had real interest on me at the core of it. This is across a movement of 7,800 managers. Didn't happen overnight. We had failure points. We had our struggles. And we had people saying, what do you want me to do to talk? What is this conversations that count? And therefore, it seems that what is natural needs a little bit of coaching and training as well to people. That you've got to give them a platform, get them to practice it. So I'm tempted to add this world of even building good relationships needs a bit of practice. There is a naturalness to relationships, but there is also a touch of practice to it, a touch of confidence, touch of opening oneself, touch of opening to being open to being given feedback. So we asked our managers, do you take feedback from your subordinates? They said, no, I'm very open. Now, okay, so nobody, I've not seen a single manager who says I'm not open. Huh? But we started giving a little more process to it. I think it changed the tone. So just giving you a context.
Oh, no, CTC. Now you have beautifully given a different acronym. I think that's a big takeaway there. So I think let me just paraphrase what I gathered so far in our conversation. It's really going great. Now, one fundamental thing is every relationship is built on certain needs of a human being. I mean, we all know about it, but the nature of relationships, they keep varying. I mean, beautifully, I think the way I gathered in our conversation is it could be at a very, very base level, transactional kind of requirements on a day-to-day. Then it could go to the level of personal growth. And then possibly it can mature to become very mutual. It's not only for my growth, but even I can add value. And that is how I think. Now, if this is the way it evolves, the relationships evolve. Now, also, I think Ashok mentioned beautifully that this journey of evolving a relationship, it's not automatic. It's not by default. It doesn't happen. It needs certain nurturing. Now, that is where I now want to get into the next brief section of how to deepen the relationships, how to take my relationship with a person that might typically start at a transactional level, because all said and done, when we just get in touch with someone, maybe we would just get in touch just for a transaction. But then it evolves. It very naturally evolves and reaches to that level 3 or maybe level 5, whatever that we. So is there something that you suggest that one can do to nurture and deepen the relationship? Now I'm coming to the whole point of how to deepen the relationships and progress on this level of hierarchy. So maybe Dr. CJK, any tips that you can suggest? How can I grow a relationship from transaction to much deeper?
So first and foremost, I very strongly believe is self-awareness. First of all, I should know why do I behave in a particular manner. What makes me happy, what makes me angry, what makes me feel bad. So the self-awareness, there are today various approaches available to understand self. Unless you know why you behave in a particular manner, you cannot predict others' behavior or relating to others. So that is the fundamental part of it. Then next, if I take one thing which is very, very important for me, it's listening. Trying to understand the other person as it is without making any judgment. Try to understand where from he is coming, what is his thing. That maybe, I don't want to get into a theoretical framework of different levels of listening. We can put it as empathy, putting ourselves in his place and try to understand what is happening to him. That is as a very, very important aspect. Then I also feel controlling your emotions. That is sometimes you in a day in an office you have 10 to 12 meetings, half an hour meeting, 1 hour meeting. That's sometimes break, without break. Sometimes it's a very, very different mood. You have gone this, and next comes the other. If you carry that together, now I'm not talking about carrying office tension to home. It is even within one meeting to another meeting, you have to be very, very careful about how you. It's very easy, sir. People come inside and within second they ask, sir, is there anything, any problem? Any just entering, there are people who can sense that. So we have to be very careful about how do we control our emotion, because that goes a long way in the relationship part of it. Second is, I even it is certain small things. Remembering certain incidences of the particular person, remembering certain achievements, certain this, and how do you relate to that and speak to a person to get it personally connected, right? So there it gives a lot of comfort for a person, and when you grow little higher in the hierarchy, it is still very much important. Even the smallest gesture of yours creates a lot of impact among people. People may say it's not just an automated telling your happy birthday, your anniversary, and sending it. Not like that. It's how genuine it is, how personally you are. And third thing, as a leader, I don't want to keep on going. Third most important thing is catch them doing right. Try to appreciate wherever possible, and it should be a genuine appreciation from the heart. And people can very easily make out whether you are just for saying for the sake of it or it coming from the heart. Before I conclude, only one more thing I'll say. Whether it is your office boy, whether it is your assistant, whether it is your chairman, whether it is anybody, there's an invisible board hanging in his chest. Invisible board, which is written, I am important. We have to take care of that. Give that importance to that person and that thing. If you start rubbing there, the whole relationship gets spoiled. Some may express, some may not express. So never touch that board. Leave it as it is. Make him feel important. Make the other person important. It's very easier said, sir, but can you? It as Ashok said, it can be practiced. Every day, at the end of the day, if you can spend 5 minutes, 10 minutes to reflect upon, did I do something which is not to be done? How did I act in these areas? And then that will definitely, gradually, it changes. I have practiced myself, and I personally feel I do not know how I know how I was there 20 years back and today how I am there, how I have changed. I know. Otherwise, it was only task. So it's a total change of introspection. And every time I do, I can understand, I reflect upon it, and I do that. So self-reflection, self-awareness is also. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. Those were so very straightforward, resonating with everyone. I'm sure, I think there's something that every one of us can really connect. I think the key thing is internalize some of these points, what you mentioned. Knowing is one thing, but I think doing is everything. I think that's where possibly there's a huge gap between the cup and lip. Now, let me gather. I'm now turning very greedy. I want to get more tips from Ashok. How to evolve relationships from this transaction level to that depth.
Yeah.
Any more pointers?
Yeah, I think I'll just build on what Jayakumar said. I think those are absolutely core fundamental. I think practicing those and knowing when the practice fails or succeeds. And when you actually go back to situations, be it in an industrial relation scenario or in a regular scenario, as to why a failure moment happened, you can actually trace it back to elements of relationship. I'm not saying relationship is only failure point. That's not the reason. Could be some real business issue also, which would have led to a stance or a point of view or a difference. But it's quite often the relationship which is an additive to that moment of success or failure. So it goes back to saying that life, even business life, has an element of trust. The final last mile where people say, I'll go with what you're saying. It's true for hiring scenarios. It's true for industrial relation scenarios. It's true for any relationship scenario. It's true for when somebody wants to leave you and go somewhere, they trust you with a conversation. So I think what CJK mentioned is absolutely at the core level. I want to just mention three things additional as a thought, Raj. One is something that on the chat, Rohini has been reflecting on, saying the element of expectations in a relationship. What is my expectation when I start a relationship? Do I contribute? Is it mutual? If the relationship is mutual in terms of expectations, I think it is richer. If it's a one-way, you give me because I want, there is a relationship, but it leads to a certain moment where it stops. If it's mutual, there is a give and take, there is a trustedness, there is non-materiality to the relationship, it becomes richer and deeper. So it depends on what you want out of a relationship. That's why even a boss-subordinate relationships can turn deeper if there is more than just performance and related goals involved. So that seems to be expectations has a role to play. I just want to add two more, the second and the third point for us to consider. One is at the core level, deeper relationships come from me being non-judgmental. And non-judgmental has to come from a platform of listening, which CJK beautifully mentioned, and not jumping to tell you why you're right or wrong. It's simply being heard and then understood. Then, if required, a moment of thought or an advice can be proffered. If I go jumping into judgment because I know better, I have more experience, I'm more senior, I've seen more of life, etc., then I tend to be judgmental. I'm not listening to you, I'm answering to you. I'm hearing you to answer. So this becomes one second big point where I think if you're conscious of, hey, that is being a little judgmental. And I go back to the iceberg that Jayakumar mentioned. Why am I judgmental? Because I'm conditioned by my own background, upbringing, my experiences. So the moment you're telling me something, I'm already judging you for who you are, why you're experiencing it, and why you should do differently. I'm giving you a solution already, half hearing you. So I'm being judgmental. So can I hold back? Is a second big point on practice, I guess. The third thing, and what I'm saying now is the more senior it gets, the uglier it gets. Okay, this point, which is, I think deeper relationships come from stopping your ego and staying humble. Humble to learn, humble to contribute, humble to understand. If I'm I'm so great, so I'm so humble kind of a declaration, avoid it. If I'm actually humble, you'll sense me out. If I'm pompous, you'll sense me out. If I say I'm very humble by being very pompous, you'll sense me out. So again, authenticity. If I'm humble, and as I said, sometimes the senior it gets, the worse it gets, because as seniority goes, ego develops and the godliness in you develops, and then you start believing you have the solution to mankind. If I hold that back, I think I have better relationships. Then people trust you rather than salute the number of stripes on your shoulder. I think that for me is the core of relationship also. And therefore, back to organizations, those things matter a lot. We tell our leaders, don't carry your seniority too heavily. Carry it lightly. It's just given to you for a particular time period temporarily. Let's talk to you as a person. I think that's the core for me, Raj. Adding on to Jayakumar's points.
Amazing, amazing, amazing. We are having maybe 7-8 minutes before we head towards the closure. So at this moment, let me just very quickly summarize, because it will be very, very useful for me to paraphrase. I think the very beginning we started saying everyone really is looking forward for much deeper relationships. There is this latent need, sometimes stated, sometimes may not be stated, but it's there. Now everyone is looking forward for some things like that. Now when we look at relationships, they don't just happen, because they evolve over a period of time from being transactional to much, much deeper. And how to take those relationships to deeper level, I think we've got beautiful tips. And the beauty of these tips from CJK and Ashok, they're so simple, so very doable. I mean, I would actually call them as more actionables. I think that have come up out of this whole thing. I think the first thing that you mentioned is, I think we need to go into this relationship with a mindset that it requires conscious effort. They just don't happen. I think there's something that I need to nurture. So get into that with a readiness of the mind. That's number one. The number two is beautiful one, is to constantly stay self-aware. How are you talking? What choice of the words are you using? What is the behavior that you're demonstrating? Keep on introspecting yourself, because that's your investment that goes into relationships. The other one you mentioned is listening with empathy. I think this is something which is most wanted. The number of 360-degree feedback sessions that I have had, and most of the time we keep hearing this one thing topping the list, that I wish my boss listens a little better. I think this seems to be the most needed kind of a skill. And the other one, very, very relevant one, is this emotional balance that one needs to exercise, because otherwise there'll be this spillover effect. Some disturbed emotion from the previous interaction will spill over into my next relationship, and I would ruin those relationships and carrying the baggage. And that's something that I need to really master. And being very genuine and authentic in appreciating. Otherwise, even sweet words may not be taken at face value if they don't come with a touch of genuineness. And the other one that beautifully is, it's such an extremely important kind of point CJK mentioned. Basically treat every person as a human being irrespective of hierarchy. I think this is very, very fundamental for building deep relationships. If I start wearing this jacket of all the labels and all of that, and my ego travels with me, I am sure, I think I'm undoing a lot of things to my relationships. And then, of course, we also talked about understanding and addressing those expectations. It's not all about me, it's also about them. I think that's another beautiful point that has come out. And stay non-judgmental. And lastly, I think once again, it's such an important one, but sometimes it becomes so difficult to practice, how to stay humble. How to stay humble. It looks, I think I always keep saying that these simple words are becoming premium words. Humility, simplicity, I think these seems to be the most important words that are in short supply. But if you can put them back, I think there'll be amazing impact on relationships. Now, having said this, now let me quickly draw your inputs on a couple of interesting points. All of these tips that I think we have given are very relatable for a corporate kind of a context. Now, how many of those things are applicable in a family situation? For example, between a parent and a teenager, or how do you see that happening there? because deepen relationship are required at the family system level. So very quickly, maybe we'll take a minute each. What are your thoughts on that? The applicability of this in a family system.
See, I most of the things will apply, but in my situation or whatever it is, I think it relates to most of them. Spending time, quality time, not just a time sitting at the home and looking at your mobile or in your laptop. That's not spending time with the family. Spending quality time, listening to them, trying to encouraging them to, even it may be an office-based situation, maybe a critical situation. Just asking a suggestion. What do you feel about that? How do you, it gives a lot of happiness to them. So according to me, listening, spending quality time is one of the most important thing to be done, whether it is with father, mother, wife, kids, whoever it is. I leave it to
spending quality time. Quality time is what it is, not just the time. Okay.
I completely agree. I think all that we spoke, Raj, applies to contexts in life, whether it's family or friendships. And I think in some ways the family is a more sharper feedback giver to you. When you start wearing the hat of advisor and gyan giver too far in the family crosses the bridge. They don't have a hierarchy in their head that corporate teams tend to have. Your son could turn around and say, no, listen, I didn't ask you for this advice. Thank you. Good advice, but I just wanted you to hear me out. Or your daughter could turn around and say, I don't think you understand me. Now, so why do these statements come up? Because we carry this, I will tell you what to do kind of thing because I seem to know more than you kind of a tone. I think family gives you a sharper, non-hierarchical feedback. I think that's a culture we should encourage in corporates as well, where there is a natural tendency to be hierarchical. But good teams, good teams, family as a team, corporate as a team, have that openness. And I think it's as important in the family back or friends circle. Friends, again, don't have a hierarchy. You might be whatever in your life, but friends will bring you to shape very quickly in a conversation. Why? Because I think at the core, there is more trust, there is goodwill, there's an understanding, there's no hierarchy, there is no gain, share, I gain this from you, I want this from you relationship. I think so. It's applicable everywhere. Boss.
Wonderful. So it's applicable for a corporate workplace context, a family context, a friends context. And as I was listening to you both, I was also able to relate to some of my own coaching experiences. I think for every coach, this bunch of tips that what we've discussed, I can't be a good coach without exhibiting any of these kind of tips. I mean, I need to be humble as a coach. I'm not really a god. I'm not playing God when I'm coaching. I'm going to be very humble. I'm going to be listening without judgment. I need to have authenticity in appreciating or even giving feedback. I can see the relatability of all these points, even for me as a coach, as a professional coach as well. Amazing. I think there are a couple of other interesting points. Maybe one of them I'll respond very quickly from my side.
Just to add, Raj, you should not take them for granted. Okay?
Absolutely.
That is
absolutely.
We take them for granted. It is.
Yeah. Don't take them for granted. Amazing. Yeah. Now, there's one interesting point saying that whether you being authentic as an individual is good enough when the overall system in the organization is not being authentic. Is that good enough that you are authentic? I think my take is, I think this whole wait and play kind of a game doesn't really work. You change, I change is not going to work. I think I will be authentic because it is me who is investing into relationships and growing them. And if it catches on within my team, with my colleagues, within my own circle that I can influence, great. I think then I would have created an impact. I can't wait for the entire organization, for the entire society to turn authentic before I turn authentic. I think, again, I would add, I'll borrow Ashok's point, just as relationship is a choice, I think being authentic and being genuine is also choice. It is a choice. I just choose to be like this. I think it's a very personal thing, and I think start with self. I think that's my kind of quick response on
Raj,
that
I have
point.
a question for you. I have a question for you and maybe a quick comment from CJK. Let me turn the moderator reverse here. Okay.
Sure.
Quick check to say that when you're in a dysfunctional relationship, what do you think are the choices for the parties involved? Quick comment from you and then quick comment from CJK. Dave has already come on screen, which basically is an indication of.
Can you repeat, Ashok? I just missed you.
When a relationship is dysfunctional, what do you think are the choices in that to remove that dysfunctionality?
No, I think it's when it is a
boss-subordinate relationship, any other relationship. Just a thought, so that's one angle we can reflect on from you and from CJK before winding down.
I think, to my mind, I think it's all about the mutuality. It's mutual respect, it's mutual trust, and it's mutuality. The word, to my mind, is mutuality.
Good one.
In a relationship. Yeah.
For me, separate the problem from the individual. Go by data. Okay, it's not the person is the problem. It's something which is there. Take it away. Try to bring data, bring objectivity into that. So go for a win-win situation. So,
fabulous point. Fabulous point. Thank you for exploring that angle.
So just before I hand over in the next few seconds back to Dave, there's one very interesting kind of question there. I'll quickly respond back saying, does ego grow with seniority, and how do we what can we do to keep it under control? I keep telling most of the leaders that I train or I coach or interact with people is every day almost mentally think that you are keeping your ego in a locker at home and going to work. It's there, safe. I mean, don't puncture it, but don't carry it with you. Because the moment we keep carrying this whole balloon of ego around us, someone will definitely be tempted to prick it. So therefore, I keep suggesting that, keep your ego back in the locker at home. It is there for your comfort, but go very, very comfortable, very travel light without baggage. I think that's my, quick response on that. Thank you very much. I know, as I was mentioning, relationships are so deep, kind of a rooted topic. 1 hour is absolute injustice, Dave, that you have given us, and that too with this kind of a panel which has got a wealth of knowledge and insights. But anyway, I think we've really enjoyed, and I tried to summarize as much as I could. Back to Dave for your concluding comments and closing the session.
Thank you, Raj and Dave, for the invitation.
Thank you so much,
Thank you, Raj. Thank you,
JK and Raj, for this wonderful conversation. And yes, Raj, I do acknowledge that 1 hour is too short for this kind of conversation, especially the wealth of wisdom that all of you bring to the table. Just a couple of quick ones. What CJK spoke about, how by nature man is a social animal and humans can't exist without relationship. And a couple of things which Ashok also spoke about, how can we develop greater self-awareness in self and others, have ongoing conversations and exploring one's impact on others. The concept of CTC, one thing that also came up was how people have also used CTC using the word cut the comedy. So rather than spending quality time talking it out, as you spoke, people are getting more task oriented. So how can we probably ensure that we go beyond CTC as cut the comedy, and how can we have building connection? How do we understand and build rapport with one another? How do we understand each other's universe at a more deeper level? Where some of the points that I was also getting as you were conversing, how do we probably have that shared culture of purpose and meaning? And as rightly pointed by all of you, as the pandemic has taught us, how do we support each other through this period of uncertainty, change, chaos, and the likes thereof? And more importantly, whether it is at a professional level, whether it is at a personal level, relationship is a choice. We can exercise a mutuality, how we go for a win-win conversation, and leaving the ego back in the locker, were some of the quick takeaways that I was able to kind of also reflect on as we speak on. So I'm sure there's a wonderful reflection points for all of us. And for all people who are there in the audience, I know 60 minutes have literally flown past, and we have been spellbound by this conversation. So thank you so much for all of you to come on to the conclave at short notice and share all your pearls of wisdom. For people in the audience, thank you so much for all your engaging conversation and participation. Thank you so much to everyone.
Thank you
Have a
so
wonderful
much.
day.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.